Hello, my friends. Before I start, I want to thank the many of you who reached out to me. I really enjoy talking to you, whichever way you reach out, and please connect. All my contact information is down here, even my phone number. So don't be shy. Please connect, ask, talk to me. This is what I enjoy the most. So, I know it's after a long time as usual, but today I'm recording a series of 3 videos. Call it a trilogy. And like I said, I've been working on this for the last few months. It is deeper than the universe, but I will attempt to deliver it in a way you can actually understand and use it. Because at the bottom line is that that's what you want. That's why you are here. Please take the time, relax, and free your mind, because this is, like I said, you may have to watch it a number of times to really get all the juice out of it. So, this is what it is about. The first video, this one, is about time. And I know there are thousands and thousands of videos and books and papers about time, but this is different. This is how I perceive time, and I think it's different from anything you heard before. Otherwise, I wouldn't bring it here to rehash something that already exists. Time is not what you learned at home, school, or by science. And in order to understand the universe or this reality, we must unwind the myth created about time. Here, we will look at time for what it really is. And we will also come up with a totally new theory of time and why it slows down with velocity and gravity. This is currently explained by the theory of relativity. But to be honest with you, I could never wrap my mind around this space-time concept. I understand that scientifically, but let's see what happens after you hear what I have to say. Now, the second video in this series is about the high-level language of our universe. And this is actually what God uses, or the programmer, and so do you, 24/7, even though you don't realize. We will use the computer high-level language idea and the machine language as a metaphor in this second video. And once you realize how you create reality using this language, it will blow your mind away and open you up, or open your mind up, to a new way of looking at reality, and obviously creating it. Now, the third video in this series is called The Circles of Thought, or the Circles of Thoth in plural. And since reality creation starts always as a thought, we must learn how to break out of thinking the same thoughts over and over. And this is really what I mean by thinking circles. Here, we will summarize everything we learned in the first 2 videos about time and the high-level language of the universe. And then we will see how to use it for creating your own reality, or in other words, to be where you want to be. I believe this will transform the way you view your reality and the universe we live in. All right, so let's move on to time. And as I speak, you probably say, time is passing. Well, it is not. So there are two options to our existence, or to explain our existence. Either everything is random and it happens by accident, nothing is by design or of anybody. Or, number two, everything is by design and there is a designer, programmer, in which case everything is logical, but it's not our logic. It's the logic of the programmer. And when we align our logic with the logic of the programmer, everything will change. This is how the world will change. You know, it's like if you went and visited, say, a tribe somewhere in the Amazon, their logic would make absolutely no sense to you in most cases, even about important stuff like death. They would come up with logic that doesn't make sense to you. But if you understood and learned that logic, you could actually live there, right? So the same applies here. Now, you know, most people in this world act like really animated puppets. They don't really want to know more than necessary to have a decent life. And they never ask why. They always ask how. And that causes them to be pulled and pushed by events and pendulums. And they are never really awake. But since you are here, it means you are not one of them. And the next reality we are going into belongs to you. Okay. So now we will go into time. It's about time. You know, I may be crazy because I'm going to contradict some of the most established theories and scientists. But you must be crazy if you think you will change the world, right? And I hope you will have as much fun watching this as I had building it. So what is the current definition of time? I'll read it to you. Time is the fourth dimension of space-time. Space-time itself is curved by the presence of energy, energy being mass. Energy being mass, momentum, and even light. The more curved space-time is, the slower time passes. All right? That's what it doesn't work for me. So here is my new theory of time. And the first thing I have to tell you about time is that it's not dynamic. It's rather static. And there is no such thing as space-time. Why? You know, we always talk about time as passing, flying, moving, and so on. And every clock we know is moving, unless it's broken, right? Well, guess what? Time is not moving. In actuality, time doesn't pass. Time is a grid on which reality is passing by constantly changing. And the way it's changing, you know, I don't know if some of you probably did watch the video where I showed you that the whole universe actually is made of 12 elementary particles. I use the Lego here because it's the closest thing you can you can think about. So, believe it or not, this is now scientific. The whole universe, including me, you, my dog, even my consciousness, according to science, is made of these 12 fundamental particles. Okay? And if you take antimatter into account, it will become 24. So what time is really is the change in the position of those particles. And obviously, because those particles make everything that exists, when you change the positions, you change how things look, where things are, everything, right? I mean, for the clock to move the minutes and the seconds, and the hours, which are made of those same particles, something has to move those particles to make the clock move, right? And this is how time is created. It's created by change in the position of the particles. Okay? Very important to realize. Now, those changes are affected by two, I call it programs just because I use it as a metaphor. So those changes in the whole universe that you call the passing of time are actually controlled or affected by two programs. The first one, which generates most of the existing parts of reality, I call the operating system. And it determines our environment, both here on Earth and in the whole universe. So that's the first program. It's running continuously, and it's the operating system of this whole thing, okay? The second program is actually much more dynamic, and it's your input into the collective consciousness. So every conscious that exists has an input into this program and causes changes in those particles, but those are specific, as opposed to the operating system, which runs the whole show, call it. It sets the stage continuously for us to act on it. Now, what's important is that both these programs are in the high-level language of the universe, which actually is the subject of the next video. Now, keep in mind that if there were no programs, or what I call programs, then, again, scientifically, all you would get is chaos and entropy. And I'll read you here the definition of entropy is one of the most inviolable laws in the universe is the second law of thermodynamics. And it states that in any physical system where nothing is exchanged with the outside environment, entropy always increases. This is true not only of a closed system within our universe, but of the entire universe itself. So basically what it is saying is that if there was no control or program or something to put those particles in a particular order continuously, then the entropy or the chaos would just increase, and all you would get is mess. You wouldn't exist, okay? And that's why those two programs are running the whole show. Now let me give you two examples of why time doesn't pass that you can actually connect with and understand. Take, for example, a video that you watch on YouTube. So you click start, right? And the video runs. And there is, at the bottom, you can see how much time passed and how much time remained or is remaining, right? And we say, oh, time is passing, the video, right? But it's not. Time is not passing. The video is actually passing in front of you. If you clicked and stopped it, time would stop, at least for the video, right? Now, what is the video doing to make you feel that it's moving in time? What it does actually changes the pixels, and there's millions and millions of them on the screen. That's equivalent to the particles that the programs change in our reality, right? Again, in the video, what makes the video move through time, because the time doesn't move, is the movement of the pixels on the screen, because they create the pictures. Another example, actually it's not an example, but I will equate the time to the distance markers on a highway, on which reality or the change in particles' position is the moving vehicle, right? So if you take it that way, you have a highway, and it has seconds and minutes and hours and years and so on, right? And then reality is actually moving on that highway and marking the time for you, for me, right? And when I say particle positions, that includes the Earth moving around the sun. Everything is particles. and everything is their positions. Okay? So you see, time is not moving or changing or anything. It's reality that's moving. Now, you may ask, if time is static, how is that the time slows down with velocity or the force of gravity as stated by theory of relativity? Because, and this is proven, that the faster we move, the slower time passes. Again, like I said, time doesn't pass. So how does that happen? So let's go back to the particles. You see, the movement of the particles is always either at the speed of light or very close to the speed of light. They continuously move. There's no particle in the whole universe that doesn't move. Okay? And that's a different topic that I will bring in future videos, because in reality there is not even such a thing as particles. But right now we'll stick with what science tells us. So what happens is we have a general speed limit in this reality, in this universe, and that's the speed of light, right? Now, if you fly in space and you have a clock, and like I said, everything is made of particles. That includes the clock, right? So if you fly in space and you start to increase your velocity, the movements of the particles have to slow down, because otherwise, by accident, they will go over the speed of light. Because in theory, if you move at the speed of light, then any movement of a particle that's with you in your direction will cause it to go faster than the speed of light. And that's why time will stop. So if you move at the speed of light, time would stop. There will be no time. And it will stop because the particles will stop changing positions. They would not be able to move. You see? So that's why time slows down. It's not because of any space-time or curvature of space-time, etc., etc. Again, this is my subjective theory, right? But this is the reason why time is slowing down when you move, okay, with the clock, because the clock is with you. And the same goes for gravity, because we also know scientifically that gravity slows time. The more powerful the gravity, the slower time goes. It's for the same reason. It just slows the particles, because the more gravity, the harder for the particles to move. And that's what slows time. So, now, where time is relative is how you experience time. And I'll give you two examples. If you are in prison, and let's say that you don't see the outside and you have no clock, right? Then time will pass very slow. But if you're in Hawaii on a vacation and you paid for 2 weeks like $10,000, believe me, time will pass very fast. There's a joke that I always use, time is relative. It depends on what side of the toilet door you are. All right. So as you see, the presence of the clock and the movement of our planet actually, forces you to perceive time as linear, regardless of what you experience. But that's not the case. Now, you can also see that the idea, which is, I think, brought up by many of the different gurus is, and maybe even science, is that the present, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously. But, that doesn't make any sense, because, like I said, the particles can only be in one position at any given point. So how can the future or the past exist at the same time? The past does exist as information, but we'll talk about it, okay? Now, another popular question is, can time be reversed, or can we time travel? Well, and according to science, time can move in both directions, forward and backwards. That's math, more mathematically. But if you followed what I said here so far, you realize that the only way to reverse time would be by repositioning every particle in the universe back where it was at that time. And that's really not realistic, is it? So if you want to if you want to recreate something from the past, you will have to actually do it again. That's the only way. You cannot go back in time. Now, wait a minute. And this will really bake your noodle. There is an exception to this rule. You see, everything that ever happened in this universe is recorded. That's what Hawking is talking about, the information in the black hole and so on. So the information of everything that happened, even me moving my hands right now, is registered. Okay, it's never lost. Now, when you become a consciousness, like after death, for example, you can relive vividly every part of your past life here, because that information exists. Okay, so that's an exception to this, that time machine. You can. But again, this cannot be proven, not even by me. So, like I said, this is all assumptions, right? So, this is the end of my first part of the trilogy on time, the high-level language of the universe, and the circles of thoughts. And if you are still here, I really commend you. You are ready for the next reality, which is coming very soon. And this is not a joke. So, the next part, the high-level language of the universe, will be available here on this channel in the next 24 hours. Thank you for watching, and have a great reality, because there is nothing else but reality.